So I have my gadget here. It looks like an old phone that goes along with my BlackBerry, but it's actually not. So for those of you who know, I have a company called 23andMe, and 23andMe was all about the empowerment of crowdsourcing information for health purposes. And genetics is a big part of it, but it was started really because we all want to live healthier, longer lives. And as much as we would like to effectively treat something like type 2 diabetes, I'd just rather not have it, period. If I ask Walt, would you rather have it or not have it, you'd probably just not want it. So if I ask people in the room, how many of you eat organic? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of you. And you have no idea if it's actually beneficial for you. So it's controversial. We think it is. There's not really great data to prove that. So one of the things that I'm also really interested in is what is it that starts to go into your body? And I did something called the body burden test, where I was tested for 85 various chemicals known to be semi-toxic or hypothesized to be toxic. And I was found to have a lot of these chemicals. And I was actually the highest in fire retardants. And there's a lot of jokes that go with this. But I was, they came to me and they're like, oh, you must fly a lot in coach. And this was when I was on Wall Street. And I said, yes, in fact, I do. And they're like, oh, well, it's covered in, cloth seats are covered in fire retardants, and you're absorbing a ton of it in the air. And you absorb more from cloth than you do from leather. So this really got me interested in knowing what is my environment. So that led me to buy this. So I'm going to turn it on here.
And what else were you high in? And what other things were elevated?
I was high in mercury because I ate actually a lot of tuna fish sandwiches. And so I cut out all tuna, and then I was really high in fire retardants and a few other chemicals. But fire retardants, I was off the charts. There was about 20 of us that did it, like Sergey and Larry and Salar and others, and I was just like way off. And so made me feel like.
So you bought that thing that looks like it comes out of, Lost in Space. Right?
Yeah. So I bought this, and this measures the volatile organic compounds in your environment. And I bought this around the time that I was also buying a new car. And so I showed up with this. I take this out of my bag, and I walked into the Mercedes dealership. I said, I need to measure your car. And,
how thrilled were the Germans at this?
It was very high. So I actually was like, there's no way I'm buying this car. Like, your VOC is like, it's covered in this. And actually, I was just, because of this meeting, I started testing. The Tesla was actually quite low. I was very pleased. But we all want to know what's in your environment. And so I started going around and testing, and we started realizing things like we had this one couch in 23andMe that was really high. So what do? We put it in the lobby. And so
For all the guests.
So
and it begs the question, that's the FDA couch?
That is. I'm just saying, when visitors come, sometimes we let them sit there longer than others, depending how much we want them to absorb.
Ms. Jones from the FDA. Oh, have a seat.
Yes. But I also started testing people today in the office. So I started walking around and testing, and I discovered that the research team area actually had very few VOCs, and our kitchen and the customer service team had much higher VOCs. So that got me to start testing people, and I discovered that people who wear a lot of deodorant have very high VOCs. And people who have a lot of hairspray in their hair also have very high VOCs. So I propose that we test Kara and Walt and actually see who has higher VOCs here.
Can I just
test me too?
You can test.
Okay.
Can I just say the hairspray thing is not fair?
So I just need your armpit.
Oh, okay.
Hold on a sec.
Am I fire retardant?
We'll see. Hold on, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, I have to go through all the. I have to say, this thing could use a little user interface work.
What kind of review would I give it?
All right. Hold on, I have to go through all the thing again.
Oh, no.
I think she's rigging it right now.
To make sure that you are...
That I have more bad whatever it
Okay.
is than Kara. That's what's going on.
And what are VOCs? That's
I'll have to power it down again.
Uh-oh.
So there was someone who actually tested so high in the office today that they set off the alarms.
How many VOCs are there that this can find?
So this tests about, my understanding, I was trying to really understand the definition of all these things, but it was about 15 or so, my understanding of that. And not all, and that's the challenge. Then I went home and I actually spent a lot of time, I was sticking this poor thing in the shampoo, the face lotion, the toothpaste, and I was like, my face soap was just, which is labeled all organic and natural, et cetera. All these things that have smells are just really full of VOCs. And then after I actually started reading it about this online, I didn't realize this was actually a major issue for the EPA. So there was actually a major soap or antiperspirant company recently that just had fines where there are actually people, they must have like college grads that are hired to go into all the drugstores, buy all the deodorants, and then test them for how many VOCs are in it. And someone actually exceeded the federal limits.
All right.
So,
Are we ready for my test?
yes, so.
No pain yet.
No pain, it's coming. Oh, so, all right, you're registering about 500 parts per billion.
Is that good?
Is that good? Bad?
That's actually, no, that's not deodorant. You're not wearing deodorant. All right. Well, let's see what the background in this room is.
You are incorrect.
Well, your deodorant's not very fragrant.
Well, that could be.
Okay, Kara.
Uh-oh.
You too don't seem to have very, actually, maybe it's the sweater is hard to penetrate.
Cashmere covers a lot of things.
Yeah, you two are not very,
Would you like to?
yeah, let's go under. Can I go through
Yeah,
that?
all right.
Oh, no, it's good. Okay, Susan.
Okay.
All right. Are you wearing deodorant? No. Okay. Yeah, no, you're not. The background on this room, I have to say, is pretty high. Just make note for next year. No, you also are actually pretty good. All right. Let me test you again, your other arm. I feel like I wasn't really getting up close there.
I'm getting a little scared where that pointy thing's
Yeah, I mean, like, do you have an MD? What is this?
It has a, well, I mean, so this is part of the point of like some of the
When
things
someone
that,
says, let me test
oh
you
no,
again.
so now you're going up higher. So now you're hitting almost 600.
So that means there's...
Anyone else, Mom?
Oh, no.
I'm partially... to your own mother?
Or maybe your hair, because you might have something. Oh, you're actually high. You're gonna hit, you dry clean. 800. 750.
I like how she went from testing the chemicals to discussing people's...
Well, I think what's
hygiene.
interesting is that people do.
So what's if
Yes?
you find out about this stuff and with that device,
So-
that device that will not give you friends,
Here, let's see what I am.
What can you do about it? Just
Well,
knowing about
so
it.
you can change your purchasing habits. So for me, like one of the big aspects that this impacted is like one, it just helped me dictate like what kind of car. And so when I got a car, then I would actually scrub it with vinegar to get all the all the smells out,
Yeah,
and then you
because
could
I bet
actually
you couldn't
see that it
find
was
a
gone.
new car that didn't have a lot of this in it, right?
No, I mean that's actually true. That's one of the benefits of buying used. And so for furniture, you actually, I test everything. So that's why I brought this in recently, because we reupholstered something in the company, and then I was testing, and it is actually much higher again. So we put it in a different...
So old things are better because they're
Old things are better because
vented.
there's more, the chemicals have come out of it.
Except
so that's
the possible
off-gassing.
stains and other things are also not so great, right?
The stains
Just
in the old things?
Yeah,
I
okay.
try what? Like, depends on whether or not, depends
Now,
on what the stain
what
is.
if you have old, 10-year-old Chinese baby pajamas that
They,
the government has banned,
There's a lot of pajamas from China with fire retardants in them.
right?
Those don't really wash out.
Those don't wash out.
Not well. You want to be tested? So So, I mean, for me, it's a question, like, from the crowdsourcing perspective, there is that question, what does it mean and what do you do? But if you can imagine that you had a community of millions and millions of people who were all posting that, like, oh, this is actually what my average daily exposure is, you could start to have those correlations. So if you look on the EPA website, there's all kinds of data about people who have the skin allergies, asthma, other kinds of issues, and it is associated with high VOC levels. So again, there's not a lot of data, but the same amount of data that there is really out there about organic, I think you have about VOCs. It's not a regulated industry. So for instance, it's not put on, like, none of the ingredients would be actually in my shampoo or in any kind of antiperspirant, but now you can actually test it.
So what do you call that device?
This
much
is
does it
the,
cost?
it's the Ray Plus, RAE Plus.
What? The Ray Plus what?
VOC monitor.
And how much does that cost?
A couple years ago, it was a couple $1,000s. But they definitely make, I mean, so this is more of like a group, you don't need to necessarily test all the time. So this was a group purchase. We used to share it among everybody. But they're definitely cheaper now. And they're the same one also for the sort of when you want to look for large particles and small particles. So for instance, I just redid the house. And you can now actually get these very cheap small ones that are in every room, and they measure the amount of particles in your environment, so small and large. And they have specific measures the EPA puts out. What are the guidelines that you want it to be at?
But
So
I would say they might want an industrial designer to look at that.
this is not, this reminds me of a lot of healthcare products. Like, it is, someone could work on
Yeah.
this design element, for sure.
Okay.
That's what I got for you.
Thank you. That was
Cool.
fantastic.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to die.
Not
Yeah,
today.
not today.
All right.